In our age of information, new previously hidden secrets now become public knowledge, which opens access to formerly muddied information and rumours, which in this case allows us to delve deeper into the experiments into astral projection. In this video, we shine a light on what the Americans and the Russians researched and their objectives with this mysterious ability, and just exactly what they uncovered. The decades the Cold War took place in was a period of intense paranoia where the territorial ambitions, weapon developing, and competing economical influence was put to breaking point against the two ideological opposed forces, Communist Soviet Russia and the capitalist United States of America. It was not uncommon for the festering paranoia and competing mentality of both nations to warrant both their vast wealth of resources to study previously untouched areas and make sure they weren't left in second place in any particular field. This included the space race, new aircraft, military technology, and nuclear weapons. But nevertheless, the fact that these two superpowers have conducted controlled studies, experiments, and had the great minds of the time explore these avenues proves its contemporary existence and validates all claims that there is some truth lying in astral projection. Competition and speculation were spread by senior policymakers, advisors, and experts on both sides. In one such case, Edward J. Pullman, director of the Southeast Hypnosis Research Center in Dallas, who advised the US military at the time of these trials, he warned the American government that if a psychic spy or a psi spy be ordered to leave the physical body, traveling across barriers of space and time, to infiltrate a foreign government security facility and then access top secret documents, this could cause absolute havoc and topple the balance of power completely. This warning did not fall on deaf ears. Soon the fear creeped up, and America gathered its resources to research and potentially harness this mystical ability. The CIA and the US military are no strangers to somewhat controversial avenues, having widely known to have dabbled in witchcraft, hypnosis as an interrogational method, and even mind-altering drugs, such as LSD. Having read through these files, in some way they seem to raise more questions than they answer, even touching on other more metaphysical theorized concepts, such as life and death. The CIA identified that in 1970, the Soviets' budget that was researching psychic powers was 60 million rubles, and then 5 years later, in 1975, it went up 300 million rubles. This had them alarmed due to the sudden increase in the research budget. This led them to believe that the Soviets were onto something, making new discoveries and making headway. In the file, they outline their aims for researching astral projection as follows: a biomedical inquiry to understand the physical aspects of the process, information on quantum mechanics to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness, using theoretical physics to explain the space-time dimension and the means by which expanded human consciousness can transcend this. Classical physics, to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body states into the language of physical science and remove the stigma of an occult connotation. It was codenamed the gateway method, one particular notion they used to enter the subject in a state of calmness, and even through a pair of headphones, put on the sound of a rhythmic wave emitting the frequency of 7 to 7.5 Hz. These waves were even thought to resonate with the body, syncing with the Earth's own natural vibrational frequency, becoming paired up. They theorise that in the universe, energy just takes on different forms of matter. This is why the soul can travel, due to the transformation from within one physical body to a projected, unseen, and not fully understood force. It appears they even patented this process, named the hemosync technology, which uses sound waves to synchronise both brainwaves on the left and the right side of the brain to act in unison. This links to the former discovery that the brain only uses a fraction of its actual ability. The actual document mentions astral projection in the wider context, linking the themes of energy, space-time relativity, and the subatomic quantum realm. The key elements they study and touch upon is transcendental meditation, hypnosis, and observing the relationship neurons have with areas of the brain. Commander McDonnell, who funnily enough has no photo on record, was the army commander who was mentioned in the files and was in charge of this project, describes human consciousness like a lamp. which emits a chaotic, dull, incoherent light, but when hypnotized or trained in a higher sense of consciousness, can focus this into a disciplined stream of light that emits like a laser beam. McDonnell shares on record that astral projection research is worth the Army's resources and time. In these files, they outline how they were actually trying to reach the so-called astral plane. The report states that 251 Army intelligence candidates were selected for the final set of experiments. Only 117 were interviewed under the ruse that they were completing a survey. The document read that anyone who displayed unreasonable enthusiasm for what they describe as psychogenic, occult fantasies and mystical zealots were not considered for final selection. There is also some controversy surrounding these papers, with some observers pointing out that the page 25 is missing, deliberately removed, with some proposing the report even touches on the very nature of our decoded existence. The familiar term, remote viewing, was also employed in a more practical sense, with a less mystic terminology. After reading through this treasure trove of approved for release declassified documents, it becomes even harder to decipher the sheer accuracy and piece together the puzzle, especially with the Russian documents. It was widely reported that the Soviet military would often twist and alter their own facts to avoid the wrath of their superiors or leaders in their inner purges. In the declassified documents on Soviet and Czechoslovakian secret studies, it mentions that Dr. Vazislev was the head of a special laboratory for biocommunications at the University of Leningrad. He went on to claim that through his work in his laboratory, he developed machines capable of monitoring and testing and studying telepathic communication. He went on to conduct long-distance telepathic experimentations between Leningrad and Sevastopol, which were successful, over the distance of 200 miles. He was convinced that his experiments offered scientific proof of telepathic communications, going on to state he needed to finally uncover the significance of the brain energy that caused this ability. Other notable theories he mentions is that the concept of time is just energy in motion and flow. Anthony Peake, who authored The Out-of-Body Experience, The History and Science of Astral Travel, theorized what he calls entanglement, where particles are linked by some special unknown quality, going on to suggest communication at a great distance could be possible. He explains how every particle that exists comes from a single source, the Big Bang, and that we can perhaps tune into this. Peake suggests that maybe this is what happens when we travel from out of our bodies. The scientist and so-called father of Soviet rocketry, Konstantin Tversky, stated publicly that in the coming era of spaceflight, telepathic abilities are necessary. He states, "Whilst a space rocket must bring men towards a knowledge of study, psychic phenomenon can lead us towards a knowledge of the mysteries of the human mind. It's precisely the solution of the secret which promises the greatest achievement." The Soviets believed it was the brain and not the soul, which is the centre of the psychic energy they called the force matter, which they admit is not fully understood. The Soviet Union took the appearance of luminous bodies very seriously, as evidenced by the widespread and acceptance of the Kirlian photography, which allegedly captures the image of the human body's aura, or even stale objects and items. Another Russian physicist and émigré, August Stern, explains how astral projection has already been accomplished in laboratory settings. He also states the Russians are 25 years ahead of the US in psychic research. He claims they have realised the advantages the outer-body astral projections can hold. Perhaps this could be an attempt to muddy the waters by the Soviets and promote a state of panic, but when you consider both countries have thrown their vast resources into these experiments, and it's even reported that a fifth of Russians today have at least once consulted a psychic. He goes on to say that even in the 1960s, they were researching what he refers to as psychic energy or psi particles. He admits openly that on the surface level this sounds absurd to most people, but states, "It sounds like science fiction, however this appears to be the most possible use of this phenomena during our studies. I am amazed at the skepticism and sometimes hostility to which I encounter when I tell Americans about the USSR experiments taking place. If the United States does not take a serious effect to move forward on this new frontier, it may be too late." To wrap this up, it was the astronaut, Edgar D. Mitchell Jr., states, "Extrasensory perception is not a matter of belief. There is a great deal of serious scientific work being done that all leans to taking a little step closer to the scientific puzzle of what man is all about." The Cold War was a strange and testing time for humanity and the planet, prompting hysteria and paranoia within the intelligence agencies of both the Russians and the Americans, with the long dark shadow of nuclear war looming as tensions escalated. Some could argue it was this backdrop that enabled the outer world experiments to be commissioned and funded, for the other not to be left behind in second place, maintaining the constant edge. The fact that the world's superpowers had invested officially in this once regarded fringe science does beg the question, what else has been conducted that we do not know about? We can only imagine what is top secret and still under wraps, perhaps one day coming out the dark and into the public knowledge. All we can really say is this makes for extremely interesting reading and speculation. As the realms of possibility continue to grow through greater scientific studies, who knows what the future holds for mankind? After covering solely in this video just the astral projection parts of the research, in our part 2, we'll explore further the other mystical and esoteric areas such as psychic,
or a psychic spy, a Jedi warrior,
mind control, remote viewing, or brainwashing that these two powers researched and uncovered. Please like and share if you enjoyed this video, as this will help immensely. And don't forget to subscribe, as this will really help the channel grow, and you also won't miss out on any future videos I have planned. This is Blue Moon, Mr. As Explained.